Huh. I don't know exactly how to feel about this one. This is the Happytime Murders, which is directed by Brian Henson, the son of the late Jim Henson, who also did stuff like A Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island. And this is a more mature puppet movie than what we're all familiar with Sesame Street and the Muppets, as it follows a string of puppet murders that are all linked to cast members of this show called the Happytimes. So a puppet cop turned private eye, Phil Phillips, is investigating the case, mainly because one of the cast members is his brother, so he eventually has to team up with his old partner, played by Melissa McCarthy, as they try to figure out the case of the Happytime Murders, hence the name of the movie. So I don't know the full history of this movie, but I believe it was in development for over a decade, and we finally got a trailer sometime this year, and I've actually heard about this before the trailer came out, and I was really looking forward to it. And then when the trailer came out, the first thing that went to my mind was, oh no, this is going to be terrible, because it's nothing but puppets having sex, puppets cursing. Basically, it falls on the gag of, hey, here are puppets doing what you wouldn't normally see puppets doing. And my expectations for the movie just went completely down. But at the same time, I also thought, maybe this is just a bad trailer. Maybe they've got an ace up their sleeve to where this is actually more clever than we give them credit for. And actually, the viral marketing for this movie has been very good. Here in Hollywood, we had this little pop-up bar called the Ink Hole, which was there to promote the movie. There have been all these viral videos about the history of the Happytime Gang, featuring interviews with a lot of the characters featured in the movie, so it was pretty creative. So on that note, I thought, maybe this could work. And the movie is pretty much what I imagined it to be from the trailer. At the same time, I actually didn't hate it. I don't even think it's worthy of that low rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The biggest problem with the movie is that it's just nothing all that special, and as I feared from the trailer, it's too reliant on this one joke, where you have puppets cursing, having sex, doing drugs, just all these things that you would never see the Muppets do. And for me, there's only so far you can take that joke before it just gets tiresome. For example, take Sausage Party. I went into that movie thinking the same thing, that it was just going to be nothing but animated food, cursing, having sex, and yeah, it was, but a lot of the humor was there to serve a point in the film's story, and how it was pretty much making fun of religion. Whether or not you agree with that is up for debate, but at least Sausage Party had a point to its crass humor. This doesn't. It's a detective murder mystery like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, very much like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it doesn't really focus or go into the actual detective part all that much, which I actually find to be more interesting than all the scenes involving puppets doing gross things or just cursing, all that stuff. To be honest, whenever the puppets are being abused, that's actually more funny than them doing all the gross out stuff. For example, there's that one shot in the trailer where this puppet Goofer is talking to Melissa McCarthy, and the one part that had me laughing in that moment was when Melissa McCarthy pretty much threw a knockout punch and knocked Goofer to sleep. Because after the punch you can hear a little snore.
Oh, I'll take that as a yes.
That had me laughing, and anytime a puppet gets murdered here, it's hilarious. I mean, it shouldn't be because you have puppets getting their heads blown off, but it's kind of inventive. And there's just something about seeing a bunch of fuzz flying everywhere in place of blood that I find hilarious. And some of the puppeteering work is pretty good. Ish. The parts that I actually found really impressive are the full body motions of the puppets. You get a lot of shots in this movie where there are puppets walking down the street, puppets lifting weights, doing all kinds of stuff, and it's pretty creative. They basically have a bunch of guys in green screen suits moving the puppets around, and it actually looks seamless. There was never a point where I looked at it and went, wow, that looks pretty fake. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from Brian Henson because he has had experience in this realm of puppeteering. So it would have been a shock if the puppeteering had been really bad. Now, that being said, I think there are a few points where the puppeteering is a bit lazy, mainly with a lot of the mouth movement, because there are a lot of shots in this movie where the puppets' mouths barely move, or they're moving out of sync compared to the dialogue that they're delivering. Like when Goofer says, "For 50 cents, I'll suck your dick." It just doesn't match the movements at all.
For 50 cents, I'll suck your dick.
And in terms of Phil Phillips, there are a few points where he acts like a ventriloquist, where his mouth doesn't even move in sync with the dialogue. And that just kind of disappoints me, that the full body puppet action is pretty cool, but some of the more basic stuff just didn't really come across. It just sort of took me out of the movie and made me realize, oh, these are people controlling puppets. These aren't actual puppets living on their own, like anytime I watch anything Muppet related. Now, in terms of the human cast, you got Melissa McCarthy. She's good. She's actually more restrained than she normally is in a lot of movies, mainly the ones directed by her husband. And there are points where I actually laughed. I like Maya Rudolph in this movie. She pretty much plays Phil Phillips' assistant, and her attitude throughout is just really charming, made me laugh, and she's not overused. There are a few points where she does some dumb things, but she's not in the movie that much. You got Joel McHale here, who's just pretty much Joel McHale, and there's not much to the human characters at all, which I'm kind of grateful for, that they actually focused more on the puppets than the actual human characters, because one of my fears when going to this movie was that it was going to be a Melissa McCarthy movie that had puppets in it. Now, I know Melissa McCarthy has done a lot of good things, like Spy, but there are just a lot of other things where they just pretty much let her loose and it's never funny. But when watching the movie, it's just a regular puppet movie that just happens to have people like Melissa McCarthy in it. So I don't really have much else to say about the Happytime Murders. I really don't think it's as bad as people are making out to be, but it's not great at all. The biggest misstep of the movie for me is that it doesn't really aim that high. For being a detective murder mystery, it just doesn't feel like one. It just feels like an over-the-top comedy that relies solely on gross-out humor, and it's just not clever. When I watch the Muppets, I've noticed a lot of clever moments spread throughout. Here, it really is just one joke throughout the entire movie, and I didn't laugh at those gross-out moments. I honestly laughed more at puppets getting killed or anybody getting abused in this movie more than the actual sex and cursing. But there are some things to admire about this movie. I would say watch at your own risk, but in the most enthusiastic way possible. If you want to go see this movie, by all means, go see it. But don't expect anything grand from this movie. Maybe with future productions, if they want to make more puppet movies geared towards adults, maybe they can learn from the mistakes of this movie and probably make it a little more mature and not have it rely on sex and cursing. So, here, fingers crossed. And that's my review for the Happytime Murders. Now, I want to hear what you guys have to say. If you've seen the movie, just let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course, leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.